whether it is 9 o'clock on the East Coast, 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Berlin, 10 o'clock in the evening in Singapore, welcome everybody to the first Centre Court MBA Festival of 2023. My name is Matt Symonds, and with my co-host, John Byrne, the editor-in-chief of Poets and Quants, we look forward to sharing the next 2 days with you and a remarkable lineup of the world's top business schools. We have deans, we have directors, students, alumni, so many voices to accompany you in your personal professional project as you think about business school. Is there a right time to go to business school? Well, for many, this might be the chance in a generation. We've seen the ebbs and flows, of course, so much uncertainty over the last 3 years. And so it's a great place to start welcoming two of the world's top business schools, top 10 US, top 10 Europe, and very contrasting programs to help you think about your choices. And we've called this first session of the festival, Find the Right Fit, Exploring the MBA Program. And to look at that, I'm delighted to welcome Rebecca Lodes. Rebecca is the Director of MBA Programs at ESMT Berlin, and Taya Sapp. Taya is the Interim Director of Full-Time MBA Admissions at Michigan Ross. Welcome, Rebecca. Welcome, Taya. It's lovely to have you with us and start the festival together, the energy that will bring. And so I suppose we're sort of setting the scene for where business school might fit on that very personal path that all of our viewers from all around the world are perhaps thinking about. Rebecca, with those lovely blue Berlin skies behind you, perhaps we can start a little bit about, now a 15-month program in the heart of Europe, very dynamic capital, entrepreneurial culture, so much. So share a little bit about ESMT Berlin and its place in the MBA landscape.
Thank you, Anne. It's a real pleasure to be here. So thank you, everybody. I think ESMT Berlin, I can just really kind of like sum it up very, very succinctly, is that we are a young, entrepreneurial, agile, dynamic, fantastic place for you to consider doing your MBA. I wouldn't be so presumptuous as to say for you to do your MBA. We're number 1 in Germany, we're number 8 in Europe. As Matt said, we're located in Berlin, a fascinating city that has so much history and is really kind of the cultural capital of Germany, the kind of like the artistic capital. I'd argue the food capital as well, definitely the linguistic capital. And the ESMT Business School, the European School of Management and Technology, we were founded 21 years ago by 25 leading German businesses. And our core is really, we focus on analytics, innovation, and leadership. And our mission is, what we want to do is to develop responsible leaders. And that's something that we take very, very seriously. And so it really is something that we know that I could carry on talking about in terms of what we do in the program. The 15-month program has been recently redeveloped in order to promote employability. And I am sure we will touch on this later. So I do not want to dominate the conversation, since this is a conversation with Taya as well as yourself, Matt.
Well, we started with Berlin. If I was to describe the quintessential student college campus, I think it would be Ann Arbor. And having enjoyed my visits there, the food's pretty good. Those farmers markets are wonderful. So Taya, of course, a school that you know so well with years spent, great colleagues and extraordinary students that it brings in. Tell us a little bit about Michigan Ross.
Sure. Yes, we're located in Ann Arbor, an incredibly vibrant city. I'm glad you've been to the farmers markets, Matt. That's something I really enjoy going to, at least in the summertime as well. So Ann Arbor is this incredible city of, I would say it's a smaller city. It's not the size of Berlin, but it still has a lot going on. It's been rated the top most educated city for at least the past 5 years within the US. It has great restaurants, really incredible artists, museum exhibits, concerts, really great things that are coming through the city all the time. And I love the speakers that I get access to see, everybody from Trevor Noah to former presidents and ambassadors and a big variety of people that come through the city. The school itself, it's a mission of building a better world through business. So we have a big focus on action-based learning and actually learning by doing, getting your hands dirty and figuring out how to do things, with a large emphasis on social impact opportunities. So if you don't have to be following that as a career, but it's part of the ethos of the school. A lot of people do pursue that passion for their post-MBA career, but we have a lot of people going into consulting and tech and traditional paths that choose to do a social impact project along the way, or a sustainability project, or be involved in some of these things as extracurriculars or as their full-time passion. And I think we have this blog that I always love. It's we republish it every year and update it, but it's 100+ ways to make a social impact while at Ross. And I think it just is a great testament to the breadth of opportunities we have.
With everything else that the Ross students fit in, to be able to work through those 100 ways to have social impact, but I know their ambition. I think it's rather nice to be the most educated city in the United States, because that's U of M, that's the Ross School. Whether you can fit them all in that giant stadium that you have for your football games. The 2-year program and the opportunities that then gives candidates to explore. You mentioned this real focus on action learning and whether the map fits into the heart of that. How does that enable someone that arrives? I think over 90% of your students end up doing this triple jump of career switch. So does that just give them a wonderful playground for exploration?
I think so. I mean, we still have a lot of, like the first year is going to be a lot of the core classes. So there is still the case method. There are still traditional lectures, but we mix it in. We allow our professors to say, how do you think that you can teach this content the best? And so some days it might be a lecture, and some days it might be a simulation. And a lot of our electives are going to be more action-based learning focused. But you kind of reference the action-based learning and MAP. And MAP is one of the core reasons why a lot of people choose Ross. It's something we're really known for. It's part of our core curriculum. So it's a consulting project that every student does during their first year. That's a full 7 weeks. So our students just a few weeks ago found out what their project is going to be, the first year students, and they're going to be doing these projects during the months of March and April full time. That's the only class they're taking. And it's a consulting project with a variety of different sponsors. So I think one of the popular ones this year that some students are going to be doing, there was one with Under Armour, where students are going to be doing market research to figure out how Under Armour should be doing building sustainability into their marketing and communications. And they're going to be going to the Netherlands for a week as part of that MAP project. There's projects with different startups in Israel and Ireland. There's projects with a project with Headspace Health that's focused on mental health and building a community engagement plan for engagement and awareness. So I think those projects really feed into what you were talking about, is this opportunity to do a career switch, because you get to do this MAP project, figure out what it's like doing a consulting project at a startup, or doing a finance-based project, or working at a large tech firm, and you get to do that and then go on to do your internship over the summer. So a lot of times people think about it as almost having the opportunity to do 2 different internships and try different things out to see what they really like and what type of career pivot they want to make.
Right. Very cheeky, but there is a business school in Boston that only a few years ago introduced a field immersion program. And I think that they took a very close look at MAP and said, okay, that's how to do it, to give that sort of boots on the ground exposure. At ESMT Berlin, Rebecca, you started with a 12-month model, but you are fitting so much into that experience and have actually just taken the decision to expand to what now, 15 months.
Exactly.
Tell us about what you are fitting into such an intensive and exhilarating experience.
I must admit, I'm kind of slightly envious of Tyre and them having 2 years. So we're kind of exactly to your point, is like, okay, how can we maximize students' experience over 15 months and ensure they're set up for success post-program? So the first 4.5 months is core, and we also have specialization tracks which build on our pillars. So analytics, innovation, or leadership, responsible leadership. So that, that's kind of almost quite traditional. Then we kind of get to summer, because our program starts in January. In summer, students have a choice of 3. You can do a social impact project. This is actually something that specifically we're partnering with one of our research institutes, which looks at sustainable business transformation. And so this is under their aegis, but working with organizations, both in Berlin, both in Germany, both further afield, in order to help an organization address a challenge. So very much, I think, having that practice orientation. However, students could also go on an internship. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of being able to run these in serial, so we're having to do it in parallel. But really, an internship, I completely agree. This is an opportunity for our students to try something they haven't tried, to do in a different industry or function. But also, one of the things from talking to alumni before we decided to introduce this is that they mentioned the fact that consulting projects, and that is the capstone of the program, are a fantastic way of kind of seeing and having students coming in and helping them address a business challenge. One of the pieces that's missing from that, which an internship delivers, is seeing how that individual fits within your organization. So this is almost like a try before you buy. So a company is able to see, okay, Rebecca, she may have done a really good consulting project, but does everyone like her? How does it work? How does she fit? Does she kind of how does it work on a day-to-day basis? Which are the things which you would think, okay, they may be, you're not just employed for your smarts, you're employed not just for what you're bringing into the organization, but it's how you work within the organization. And that how you go about something is really what will get you your first promotion once you're into an organization. So that's summer. And then the third option is intensive German. And that is really in recognition of the fact that Berlin, fantastic place. You can get by without German. The rest of Germany is more important. And so this is a way to help you signal, if you're thinking about targeting a German employer, how to signal to them that you are investing in Germany. And also we have about 85% of our students are making the triple jump. So country, industry and function. And then we have our electives, or also an international exchange, a consulting project. And another thing which apologies for going on a little bit, is like what I really love about the program as well is our post-program option. We have two. One is an entrepreneurship program. So, Berlin is the kind of like fantastic breeding ground for startups and scale-ups. So this is a summer entrepreneurship program which helps you tap into the local ecosystem to meet VCs, to make local businesses in a structured incubator-like type fashion. And then the second, and this kind of gives me goosebumps because it's something that I am genuinely proud of, we have something called the Responsible Leaders Fellowship, which is where ESMT will support students. We pay for your airfare, we pay you a stipend, so that for 3 to 6 months you can go and work in a developing country on a social enterprise with an NGO, with projects which we have partnered with the BMW Foundation in order to find. So again, it's how you can create impact through what you've done, because I think that an MBA is no longer, I think that some of the traditional stereotypes of what an MBA is and does are being kind of blasted away, based on where we are today.
Right, and the emphasis that both schools are placing, social impact, that you were speaking to, that sort of social enterprise. And by the way, Rebecca, we really like you, and you really fit in at Centre Court, just because that's one of the modules 6 months through the program. And I suppose that sense of fit of anyone in an organization, or in this case, the communities at Ross and at ESMT. So if I were to look at the incoming class at Ross, for what would it be, the class of 2024 that's already here, I see tremendous diversity. What does that say about the sort of individuals that you're attracting to Ross?
Yeah, I mean, diversity is what we're built on, is making sure that we have diverse teams and we have a community of students who are going to be learning from one another, not just their professional backgrounds, but their personal backgrounds. And everybody is bringing something to the class. When we're looking for students, we want to be, obviously, we're looking for people who are going to be adaptable and, comfortable in some of these environments where, since we are so focused on learning by doing, comfortable going outside their comfort zone and taking on challenges. And I think building a class that has that in all different ways is incredibly important. Yes, we have over 40% women, almost 40 different countries represented, but we're also really proud this year. We had a record number of MD MBAs in the class. We have 15 MD MBAs in the first year class. And so people who have different passions and interests, obviously the MDs are not going on to be to go and be an investment banker, but they want to integrate business into their practices and thinking about some of the entrepreneurial offerings. And they're bringing a whole different perspective than someone who was a teacher or someone who was a banker before class. And I think that perspective is really important in the class that we're building.
So when there's that message, is there a doctor on the plane? In this case, is there a doctor in the lecture hall? 15 hands shoot up.
That's right.
but also perhaps, Taya, there's this element, you attract very talented, very smart individuals reflected, in their GPA, their GMAT. That can actually be perhaps inhibitive to some. They look and say, will I find my place? And for this theme of finding the right fit, how do you encourage them to recognize this extraordinary breadth? And there's no one number or data point that gets you into the Ross program.
Sure. I mean, I do think it's a holistic process. You're probably going to hear every school throughout this program talk about that it's a holistic process. It's not just one test score or one grade from your undergraduate record that's going to make or break you. We're looking for people, yes, that are smart and driven, are going to be able to fit into the academic rigor of the class, but also people who have different backgrounds and different perspectives that are going to build the class and everybody's bringing something different. And that's what we're looking for. So I always tell people, don't focus on what the GMAT average is necessarily. It's good to have that for context. But just because you're 20 points below that, or you have maybe you have a 780, that's not a guaranteed in or a guaranteed out. Those are our averages. And there's a lot that goes into that. When we're looking at the academic rigor, we have an option to apply without a test as well. And so when we have that, we're saying, okay, what was their work experience? What was their undergraduate record? What other things do they have that are going to tell us that they're going to be able to keep up with the academic rigor of the class? And then beyond that, I mean, Rebecca can probably say this too, a large portion of the people that apply to our programs are ready, do have that academic rigor. It's everything else beyond that. It's the community fit. It's what your professional experiences are, what your impact has been at your organizations that plays a big part in our decision as well.
I love the fact that in the admissions team, you've introduced the idea of humility as one of the characteristics that will also display someone that's going to be very comfortable and thrive in the Ross environment. Rebecca, we were talking earlier about how each year you reflect on the essay questions, what you're trying to find, and presumably, a very international mindset. David Bowie happily made a home in Berlin, but just talk us through that incoming class profile at ESMT and perhaps what it captures, again, beyond the numbers.
I think what's really fascinating, and I think it's very much agreeing with Taya, we look at you holistically. We're not focused on one particular aspect. And for us, one of our values is community, and also what is something that we are specifically looking for when we have people coming to the program. And the reason for that is we are a small school. We are a small boutique school, is probably how I would position us. We have small classes. We know our students. Our students know us. Now, that's obviously could be good or bad, but we our faculty are available to everybody. And so therefore, when we're looking for students to come into the program, we are looking for those that are not only vested in their own development, but also in helping their fellow students develop. And that's really speaking to the point around, why do you have a diverse class in the first place? Why do you strive to have one? And it's really because you don't think about, okay, I'm bringing, say, 6 years of work experience into the program. You look around the room and start totting up how many years of experience are there, how many different industries and functions there are, how many different countries of origins, how many different perspectives have you got? So you are getting the super accelerated learning experience that it would take you centuries to accumulate if you were doing each of them. And so therefore that's a fundamental piece about what we are looking for. And we also, to be honest, we're Berlin. We are a bit quirky. The school is fantastic. And so we're looking for people who are going to bring a different perspective. So in a certain sense, the application process as well is, we did change the essay because one of the essays we found that we were getting a bit similar responses. We didn't give up candidates the opportunity to shine. And essays really are an opportunity for you to shine, to show more of your personality, to give us the authentic self, we've seen the professional one in your CV, but now let's see a little bit more about who you are, what you stand for, where your interests are, what you're going to bring to the class, so that effectively everyone will benefit from having you there.
Right. You both talked about corporate connections, that they're part of the heritage of ESMT. And when you said earlier, Rebecca, 25 companies, it's not just any companies. This is like the who's who of German industry, finance, everybody's there. And similarly, Taya, when I look at the career report at Ross, McKinsey, BCG, Amazon, it's a quite extraordinary list. What do you think they see in Ross graduates that makes you such a key destination for recruitment?
I think it's a few things. I do think it is that adaptability, that our students are learning how to think on their feet and figure things out. When companies are going to top business schools, like either of ours here, they know that they're smart. They have that. They know that they can train them. But I think beyond that, it's some of the soft skills and some of the other skills around strategic thinking and leadership, and what that's going to look like, and how that's going to be what that's going to bring to their organization. Because most major organizations have training that are going to teach you how to do the actual projects that you're going to do, and what some of those what that looks like. But are you going to be able to be a good leader? Are you going to be a good are you going to be able to strategically think and figure things out, problem solve, some of those things? I think that's part of what's appealing when they're looking at us. And they know MAP, it's in its 31st year, so they know what skills people build from MAP. And so that ability to just come in and evaluate the situation, do this analysis, maybe depending on the individual project, figure things out, and be able to maybe shift as you go. Or we have programs through our leadership center called Leadership Crisis Challenge, where you're dealing with a crisis real time over the course of 24 hours, getting additional pieces of information over that 24 hours that are changing your perspective and changing how you're doing it. So we're really teaching people how to think on their feet and be able to lead through challenging times, and have a lot of ways where people practice and build that along the way. So I think those type of skills are really appealing to the recruiters.
Now, if any of our viewers work at Netflix or any of those others, I think that would be a great 24-hour recording, just to see people in situ facing it. It's not just the Sutherlands of the world that come up with those sort of moves. Now, that 25 companies, Rebecca, continues to expand, and I'm sure does influence opportunities, because on the one hand, these are big, global multinationals that mix with the very intrapreneurial or entrepreneurial culture of the school. How do those two fit together?
I think that one of the things that you have to think about, if you look at German industry, so the Mittelstand, these are the kind of like the economic powerhouses that no one has ever heard of, but everyone will have things, multiple pieces of their product in their houses, in their cars, wherever you are, because they are the unsung heroes. And one of the things when you've got, say, an economy which has that at its kind of like fundamental core, think about German engineering tradition, now couple that with what's going on in terms of business transformation, digital transformation, industry 4.0, sustainability. How do organizations change and transform into in a way of addressing the challenges which all companies are facing? And arguably, I would say that those big kind of houses are actually more receptive to some of the ideas that we're producing than necessarily the startups who have got them built on it. Because effectively, for those, being able to respond and change to what's going on is fundamental to their business success. Startups are, by very nature, are effectively addressing a current business problem and don't have history to overcome. And so therefore, even though it may seem as though the two are very, very different, they do coexist because actually there's a mutual benefit on both sides.
Right. You're both understandably passionate about your schools, about the program. I can imagine that admit weekends and just all of these candidates and the applications that you read when they get there, and what a wonderful, magical moment that must be. And it's a dialogue. I mean, you're both very selective schools attracting top talent, but a dialogue in the sense that candidates, are looking for the right fit for you. Taya, when you meet candidates or even someone perhaps that didn't have the MBA and business school on their radar, what do you encourage them to think about, at a personal level at this point in my career, questions that they should ask themselves and also ask of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, if somebody's early on the process and doesn't really know if they even want to do an MBA, is reflecting on where they want to go and who, what they want to do, and take some time to really say, this is the direction I want to head, and these are the steps I need to take to get there, and seeing if an MBA fits into that. And one of the first things I usually tell people to do is talk to our current students, talk to our alumni. We have over 300 student ambassadors on the website that you can literally just filter by their career interest or the clubs they're in or their geographic background before Ross, and email them directly. So that's a good way to start off and say, hey, I see that you worked in this area, or you're interested in this. Can you tell me about that? And I'm thinking about doing that. People like LinkedIn is an amazing tool. So you can easily connect with somebody who went to the same school as you or worked at the same company as you, and just ask them. People are excited to tell you about Ross. Our alums are very passionate and looking forward to that. So I would really encourage people to do a little reflecting on what they want to do and then start talking to different people. And I think that's a big reason why people from when they start business school to the careers that they go into often change their minds. And that's because they've had more conversations with different students, different alums, different companies, and they're learning about things that they didn't know existed before that are really meeting their passions. We have a lot of tools that are going to help people identify their strengths, identify different paths that are going to might be a good fit for them. So there's different tools along the way that we have to support students. But before they're even in, I think the easiest thing is to do some self-reflection and then start talking to students and alumni.
I can't believe that we've got 25 minutes through. We haven't yet said go blue, but
Go
there
blue.
we are. We have. Just to follow up to that, and perhaps as we look at what has been a very hot US job market, I know that in the last few months, we're seeing layoffs in tech, and that's spilling over into other industries. But in terms of timing, Taya, the right time for an MBA. People have perhaps said, I'm in a great position. Is business school at this point, the opportunity cost? But I mean, we're actually not just thinking about when you immediately graduate, but the years beyond, everything it's going to offer. So what are your thoughts on timing?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to figure out the timing that's right for you, when you're ready to make a switch, when you're ready to leave your position. But it is, I mean, I think it's a long-term investment. An MBA is an investment in both time and money, but it's skills. You're learning you're getting access to all these different companies. You're learning a lot more about yourself and how to think differently. And I think one of the biggest things is you're building your network too. And thinking about, you have access to this 650,000 plus alumni network that are happy to help you. And so when are you ready to be doing that? What's the right time for you? It's going to be different for everyone. But that's one thing, Matt, that I tell people a lot is we're not thinking about the right now, what the job market is when we're talking about an MBA, depending on if you're going to Berlin or Ann Arbor, it's 15 months from now, or it's 2 years from now. And the market's going to be very different. But it's always a great time. Like there are always recruiters that are recruiting top students that have these skills.
Rebecca, you yourself have an MBA from one of the top European schools. As you reflect on that decision and how it's continued to reward you, we place a lot of focus on post-MBA salaries, which are reaching record levels in the last year or two. But what are some of the perhaps less tangible benefits that have continued to serve you and your graduating class and those at ESMT right now?
I think it's really good because I think it's very easy just to focus on the numbers, and I'm an engineer, so therefore there is a natural tendency to do that. But when I look back and when I think about what I have personally benefited from the MBA, and also when I see our graduates, I think the biggest thing is a perspective shift. Is I look at things differently, and I think I looked at them, and that's something I saw as I was going through the program myself, is that my own perspective and understanding and knowledge of business was changing. I was thinking about things in a different way. And so therefore I was approaching things in a different way and seeing that individual transformation journey and seeing our students going through that transformation journey is really fascinating, because you're challenging, I see them challenging themselves. I see the fact that they are lucky. I think if you are considering doing an MBA, you are giving yourself a fantastic gift, because you're investing in yourself and your development. And it's something that does pay off very much in the short, medium, and long term. There's also some things you're kind of like, you're learning from within a global cohort. You're also, and this is something that's probably you wouldn't expect to get from an MBA program, is that during the program, and had lunch with a couple of our new MBA students today, and we were talking about effectively the information deluge that you have. So as part of the program, you are learning stuff at an enormous fast pace. You have everything coming to you. So you need to strategize. You need to develop fundamental skills about how you can take all of this input you're getting, how you can understand it and process it and turn that into action. And that is something which are unlikely. I think the pressure of an MBA is quite unique, that you are unlikely to have developed in your pre-MBA life, and therefore will stand you for good stead in your longer term career and development.
Right. The idea of students at Ross on their first day, and the core curriculum, which will bring its own intensity, but also, you have so many clubs, and you mentioned guest speakers, the convening power of Michigan. Your advice, like a kid in a candy store, Taya, sort of all these things they could do. How do you support students in some of those choices and prioritizing?
Yeah, the fear of missing out is real, FOMO. That definitely happens, especially the first year when everything is appealing. I think that's one thing I talk to students is it's different because this is your own time. There's all kinds of things, when you're at work, there's going to be projects that you don't really want to do, or different types of things, where this is an opportunity that you have to say, this is where I want to invest my time. And you have a different sort of problem where there's so many things that you don't have enough time in the day. So I think, there's one of our alums, she was on a panel that I moderated once, and she said she liked to approach it as making sure she had a purpose, a passion, and a push, and coming up with that framework of why am I coming to business school? What is my purpose for doing that? Let me get involved in a club that has that. Let me find something that is my passion. So for her, it was women and leading the women's organization. And her push, what's something where she's going to be going outside of her comfort zone. And I think that's a great framework to think about when you have all of these different things coming at you. Yes, you're still going to say more to 3 things, but when you are starting to get overwhelmed, to come back to that and be like, does this align with the reasons I'm here and what my true, what I want to do to go forward? I think it's helpful to have those kind of guiding principles to help you balance that. And I love that idea.
Great words of advice. So purpose, passion, and push. And concurrent with all of the classes and the clubs, there's constant support from the career services teams and a real investment on the part of your institutions for this. Rebecca, even in the 15 months, we've spoken about how both schools give this tremendous opportunity for transition. It's the accelerator, the booster, or radically changing industries. How does that sort of fit, maybe at different moments during the MBA as they're thinking about new industries and then want to try them out?
One of the things, obviously kind of like, we have the curriculum, so therefore it's really important in terms of academic development, but as your point exactly, you're doing this professional development as well. So what we do is, running in parallel to our academic curriculum, we have a leadership, personal development and career curriculum. And this is really predicated on the fact that, first of all, you need to kind of understand yourself. So how do we help our students develop a deeper self-understanding about what actually would work for me? What are my motivations? What are my drivers? Where do I thrive? What is the kind of thing I should be looking at? Then we start to kind of move into, okay, how can you start to unlock that potential? How can you access the opportunities which will allow you to effectively to move into that particular domain? And then the final bit is effectively kind of more skills based about, okay, you know what you want, you've seen how to get it, now how can we make that happen? So therefore that is there. Now we have career coaches which work, so each of our students has a career coach that they have a number of sessions with in order to help them develop their own kind of career story and what they would like to do. So to develop that self-awareness. And going back, and I also love purpose, passion, and push. But this is also something where with these, you get out what you put in. So there's also that constant tension about, okay, in terms of really thinking about, and to the point that Taya made as well, around kind of thinking, well, what do I want from this program and how will I make it work for me? And so therefore, how will I go and achieve it? And I think that that's fundamentally important, because effectively your transformation happens in partnership with the school that you choose and with obviously the faculty, careers, support, coaches that you're working with along that learning journey.
Right. You've used the word gift. And as I apply that to next steps and applying to business school, this opportunity to step back and the sort of self-reflection that both of you have emphasized that is involved with this and will then continue to play out in a journey of self-discovery at Ross or at ESMT. So Taya, you obviously ask individuals to think about their backgrounds and possibly post-MBA career paths. You also ask them why. So taking that as an example, the why, talk us through how applying to Ross can hold up this mirror and really help people to think more deeply about the sort of person that they want to carry. 100 reasons for social impact. It's part of the program. So you know, it is this great invitation for self-reflection.
Yeah, it is. And I do think coming into that why, there are so many different opportunities that you can do at Ross. And so it's, you know, if your goal is to become a better leader, you're going to be thinking about the different types of programs that you want to be getting involved in. So you're going to look into our Sanger Leadership Center and do that crisis challenge that I mentioned, or do the leading inclusive teams program, or Story Lab, which is teaching you skills about how to be more vulnerable and do storytelling, which is actually a great leadership skill, I believe. If you are looking to build out, maybe you're coming from a nonprofit and you want to be learning how to work at a large corporation, you're going to be prioritizing working on some consulting projects extracurricularly as a student and saying, okay, maybe I'm going to be doing this project with Toyota and I'm going to do my map project with Microsoft, you know, and figuring out like how to be building out your experience at these different types of organizations. But I think if you're looking at building out your data and analytics, like you're going to lean in on the classes. And so you really have to think about the skills that you want to build. And then there's a whole suite of things that are going to be helping you with that. And if they don't exist, we started a new design thinking concentration this year, you know, and so we have students that are starting things all the time and working with faculty to say, okay, this concentration is going to be really helpful for me. Or we have 7 different investment funds that are student led. And last year we started one that was focused on clean tech investments because the students said, look, we have these ones that are focused on social impact or smaller stage startups or have international startups, but we want one that's focused on clean tech. And so started that. And so I think figuring out what you want to get out of this business school, like if it's leadership development, if it's data analytics, and then if it doesn't exist, saying, how can I push it forward? And how can I, you know, how can I work with the administration to make sure these things are, you know, make this what I need it to be and start it.
Right. I love the idea. We talk about the candidate and how they will develop. You have an established program, you know, MAP for over 30 years, but last year, clean tech that will probably still be with us 30 years from now, and how, you know, you as institutions are constantly challenging yourself to respond to this, you know, dynamic and evolving market. So, Rebecca, if I sat down with ESMT students and asked them, you know, to reflect on the experience that they've had, both things that were, of course, memorable, perhaps something that was unexpected, that they discovered about themselves or about Berlin and ESMT, what do you think they would share?
Aside from getting into Berkheim, Berkheim, the club in Berlin is notoriously difficult.
Very difficult to get into, right?
Yes. And I know that for some students, that is almost sometimes the highlight of their study journey. I think that it's it is genuinely the sense of community that there is at ESMT, which I realize sounds kind of like a bit trite, but it really is. It's a value. It's really important to us. You are part of our community when you start applying for a program, when you set foot in the door, and really for the rest of your life. So it's kind of like this lifelong partnership. It's also that we managed to cram a hell of a lot into a short amount of time, which obviously that could be remembered for the good and the bad reasons, but are really effectively kind of like that accelerated investment in themselves. And then obviously, you know, the network you've built within your program, between programs with alumni, and then the extra things that you may have taken advantage of, like the Responsible Leaders Fellowship or the Value Building Entrepreneurship Program, or going all together to HSA for the MBA tour. So I think it's interesting, because I think that almost the professional development is something which is taken as a given, and the things which is the unexpected is around the personal development and how you have changed as an individual coming into the program, and what you've gained from the program as you leave.
Right. Same question, Taya, but if one of the Ross students I was sitting down with, you know, had just finished a breathless first year, and the other one was 10 years out of school, and how they're also then reflecting on, you know, Ross, the community, how it continues. Again, what sort of things do you think they would share with me?
I mean, I agree. I think the first thing is the people that they met. It is something special. You're going to be building. I mean, a network just doesn't sound like it describes what it is. They're friends, you know, they're people that you're going to lean on, that would be, you're going to invite them to your weddings. You're going to be, they're going to be helping you through career changes. They're going to be coaches. They're going to be mentors, but just truly friends that you stay in touch with for the rest of your life. I can't tell you how many pictures I see on social media of our students getting together to go on a trip or a vacation, or the big pictures at the weddings with the Michigan Block M flag with a whole group of people. And so I do think that is something that goes with you for a lifetime. I actually just met with an admitted student a couple of weeks ago, and he came back. His dad was a Michigan alum from a few decades ago. And he came back and was reconnecting with faculty, you know? And so like, it's these relationships that you build. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm having dinner with this person tonight and having this. And so they each had their own social calendars with what it looks like. And I think that network is something special. It is, when we talk to students, it's a lifelong partnership. We actually have classes that students can take that's part of our Alumni Advantage program, so they can come back and do a week-long course in positive leadership or digital transformation, or becoming leading teams of the future, you know? So there's some of these things where you can continually engage with the school. But if you talk to somebody 5 years out or 10 years out, the number one thing they're going to talk about is the people that they met, no question, and how they changed their lives.
Also across generations, where the father, the mother are now, you know, perhaps themselves senior leaders in industry. I mean, it's this wonderful snowball effect, isn't it? So perhaps as we wrap up, I mean, you've given us so many reasons to be enthusiastic about your schools, and you know, Rebecca, your comment right at the beginning, you know, considering our school as possibly being the right fit for our viewers' next steps. Concrete ways to reach out. You've emphasized, you know, alumni conversations, whether it's for geographic or professional backgrounds, things that you might share. Other great ways to get in touch with both of your schools and get that sense of fit. Rebecca?
I guess the easiest way is write to admissions.degrees@esmt.org, and we will put you into touch with alumni, current students, because I guess I would say the 3 C's you need to evaluate: community, effectively, the curriculum, but also the culture. And that are things you can ask us as the official representatives of the school, but really you kind of probably want the inside skinny from the students that are currently here and the alumni that have gone through it. So I would really recommend admissions.degrees@esmt.org, of course our website, but we're also present on all kinds of social media, so you can also use those channels to reach out as well.
Great. And Taya, it's not just the football games, right? A chance to connect with the school.
No, I mean, there's basketball games, gymnastics meets too. But no, I mean, I think the resource I always tell people to go to is that student ambassador website with over 300 current students. So take a look at that. We have a podcast that our students produced. It's in its 7th season. It's called Business Beyond Usual. So it's on Spotify, all the major podcast organizations. And the faculty actually just launched a podcast this fall too, called Business and Society. So I think those are good ways to stay in touch. And then with our team directly, we do virtual office hours every Wednesday. So if you have questions, it's just drop in. You can ask your questions, a Zoom meeting similar to this. And our team is there. We staff it according to how many people sign up. So we can keep the groups fairly small. So
Great.
I think.
So my final question, and bearing in mind that my co-host, John Byrne, you should see his music room. It's one of the most impressive collections of vinyl and a great eclectic mix. If we introduced karaoke into the admissions process for your school, we'd discover something. I'm not quite sure what we would discover, which of course lends itself to the question, if the three of us were in a karaoke club, Rebecca and Taya, what song would you choose? Rebecca, do you know?
Oh my word, I don't actually, because I'm just thinking, like, probably a child of my age, it would be some really, really trashy 80s punk new wave thing. So probably, yeah, sounds like oh dear. I do not have a karaoke track that I regularly go to. I'm a mix it up, sing along to anything girl.
Right. Viewers, we need to help Rebecca find her song. Taya, do you have a go-to song?
Yeah, suggest
I feel like that gave me time
and it could
to
even
think,
be singing along in the car.
Yeah, that gave me time to think, and I still don't really know. I mean, I feel like Living on a Prayer is a classic. I don't know. It's a good one, but it probably wouldn't be my first one. It's just for some reason the only thing that's coming to mind. I'm not sure.
Yeah, go with your gut, and there are some high notes. If you can reach those, that would be great. Well, if Harry Styles, fresh from his Grammy success, applies to either of your programs, I know he'd have a wonderful time. Thank you both of you for embracing that question, but of course covering so much more, and you know, your passion for the program. You get to see this every day on the faces of your students as you walk down the corridors, and I think you've really captured and shared that experience. So Rebecca, Taya, thank you so much for joining us at Centre Court. And our viewers, stay with us, because whether it's fireside chats with deans, sit downs with admissions directors, more of these live panels, you'll see on the schedules as you register, there's a full range. And those student voices that both Rebecca and Taya have said, really important to be able to connect. I think you'll quickly see that as they talk about their Ross and their ESMT experiences, they really want to share a wonderful moment of their lives. So stay with us for everything that's coming up in the next 2 days. Rebecca and Taya, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.